Hello and welcome to the aForm Show, the premier podcast for all things architecture and design across the MENA region. Welcome to your tribe. Hello and welcome to the show, everyone. Today's guest is Jeremy Robinson, Managing Director of Edge Architects, with extensive experience leading projects across architecture, interiors, and the built environment. Jeremy has built a reputation for combining strong design thinking with a practical understanding of development and, most importantly, delivery. Under his leadership, Edge Architects has developed a diverse portfolio that reflects a clear and contemporary design approach, balancing functionality, commercial awareness, and attention to detail. His perspective on architecture is shaped not only by design, but also by the realities of creating projects that respond to people, place, and the evolving demands of modern cities. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Welcome to the show, Jeremy.
Wow, I sound impressive. Honestly.
Borderline imposter syndrome, right?
Yes, absolutely. I think we all go through that.
I think a good place to start for our listeners who have probably seen who you are and know of Edge, I want to sort of start off with Edge Architects, which is by definition somewhat of a rebrand, somewhat of a repositioning. So first question being why? Second question being what's different?
Yeah. No, it's a good question. And it's something that I've been working with over the last, 3 years. Everyone had known the company as Edge Design. Our website said Edge Design. Our email address said Edge Design. But legally, on our trade license, we're Edge Architects. So it was more of an evolution from Edge Design to Edge Architects, not necessarily branding. It's an alignment for me. And I think as I've done with my videos on LinkedIn and Instagram, that is what we are. We are architects. It sort of wanted to separate us from just pure designers to architects. Everyone in the office here is an architect. And as I said, it sort of brings a certain level of gravitas to the company as well, that we're hitting up there with other architectural consultancies or design firms. So that was the reason why I wanted to sort of bring it into alignment and make sure that everyone knew
this is what we do.
This is what we do, and this is who we are.
Right. It seems that when you speak to a lot of, I kind of categorize a certain type of designer. I put them under, the passionate ones. When you speak to passionate architects, you get the impression that they almost want to and could design anything, right from a chair to a vase to a table to an interior space to a building to a city. And it seems like that's what most passionate designers want to sort of strive towards. But it seems you've sort of taken a bit of a left turn and made it very specific to it being architects. So was there a specific decision as to why architects and not interiors, for example, or master planners?
I think for us, it's trying to find not a niche, but a lane that we work within, specifically architecture, and be good at it. Rather than be 50% in interior design, 50% in product design, I think we really want to just focus on what we're good at. I think that just reaffirms as well and gives the team an identity. We're architects and we should be doing that. Not saying that we all don't have a little bit of ego and want to design everything and do everything as well. But I think, let's do what we're good at and then work with those other specialties to support us.
Right. Makes sense. I think it is the Puritan way, the pure way, I would say almost, that you sort of approach architecture. And I love that. I'm a big fan of it, to be honest. I suppose then going to part 2 of the question, which is now that you are architects, what's different? Are you looking at different sort of design workflows? Are you looking at different kind of specialities to bring into the office, etc.?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge in changing from designer to architect has been the workflow. Architects, I've come from New Zealand where the architect does everything. We take ownership of the interior design and we take ownership to an extent of structure and MEP. So here in Edge, there was a period of time where we had to learn to respect one another's discipline, let's say. And we're still working through that. It's finding where each other plugs into the different area, whether it's interior design or architecture. I say that's been a challenge because we've gone through many interior designers over a period of time, and there's been frustrations
on both sides.
From both sides. And I think, I've tried to, myself as well, learn from these interior designers. I don't know everything about interior design and the different aspects of interior design, and then respecting that. And I think we're trying to teach the architects to respect each other.
Yeah.
We all have a part to play. Let's look at it. Interior designers, maybe they're looking at the micro and we're looking at the macro, vice versa at different times. And with that, sometimes our interior designers are project leads, and the architect then has to follow what the interior designer is controlling the project, and vice versa.
Yeah. I think when done correctly, there's a lot of opportunity to be uncovered. I sort of see it, at least I can speak for myself when I say, as much as there is sort of this God mode that architects deal with, being like, it's my building, it's my design, it's my everything. I am not big enough to admit that there have been times when an interior designer has come to me and said, hey, listen, if you kind of just shift this column about a meter, it opens up this whole new thing we can do. And it didn't occur to me because I'm, like you said, sort of seeing it from the macro, but then that small intervention very early on, sort of in the CD, borderline SD stage, really had a dramatic impact on that project moving forward. So I think when done right, there is a lot of opportunity.
Absolutely. Early integration of different disciplines, I think, is the key. We're working on a project at the moment. It started off as traditional, concept design, schematic design, detailed design. It hasn't ended up like that. We've made a conscious decision to involve the contractor in concept design. We've made a conscious decision to get the suppliers on board in concept design because it's such a short timeline.
Right.
And we know that we have to deliver at a certain date. There's no room for this phases anymore.
Yeah.
So getting integration of interior design at the very beginning to look at the spatial relationship definitely helps. As you say, sometimes we're just so far out and so far removed from that actual space that we don't notice moving that column or lifting the ceiling a little bit more actually gives you a bit more of a better experience.
100%. Yeah. I almost didn't want to ask, and this is something I ask a lot of practitioners, owners of studios, etc. Do you feel the sort of commercial pyramid, I'll put it that way, which is you kind of start off small up top with mobilization, you got your concept, schematic, and then traditionally your big chunk has always been your DD and tender and so on of your fee, and so be it. Although when I speak to a lot of people now, it seems that pyramid is almost inverted, wherein the amount of work required upfront, the sort of ambiguous concept plus.
Who invented plus?
Had to be an engineer, man. Had to be an engineer. How do we describe it? Well, it's concept plus whatever. But in all seriousness, I suppose the question is, do you see that there is a lot more front loading happening? And if so, is it anything that you and Edge as a practice are sort of doing about it commercially or in terms of how you resource or anything like that?
Absolutely. Concept design and schematic design are the crucial parts of the process now. You are diving into a lot more detail in concept design, the requirements from clients as well. You need to have considered everything. Yep. The schematic design, or I like to call it spatial coordination, that's from Reba. I think that encompasses what that stage is. We spend more time in that stage to make sure that we have considered everything. And then the last stage, detailed design, that's essentially what it is. We're just detailing it. So we've worked everything out and it's just piecing the last bits and pieces together. So definitely our commercial has changed a lot more. We put more time into schematic and concept than we do into detailed design, and the fee reflects that as well.
Right. And internally, in terms of resources, I mean, think of me as an outsider to the field. Would that then mean you would be looking at, from a resource point of view, staff who are probably much more front end as compared to back end, just because now there's so much of a load up front?
I think I put it into two parts. So the front loading is going to be my specialists, my A team. They understand the full process. They then understand how to do a concept and consider all the other elements. When it comes to the detailed design, let's say, that's my production team. So costing for that is very different.
Yeah.
So these guys in the detailed design, they're just churning out work.
Yeah.
Now, the difference here is that I don't outsource. So all my production is done in-house as well.
Oh, okay.
I feel that is a better way for me to control the project, the output.
Yeah.
The Edge brand, at the end of the day, I know that it's coming out according to the Edge standards.
Right. I agree. And it is...
Rightly or wrongly, I mean, I've had lots of people say, outsource, go to South Africa, go to Argentina, go to India. I've done it.
It's a double-edged sword, I mean, in my opinion. I think if you can make it work and you're happy with QA/QC and you have your workflows and processes in place, sure. But for me personally, again, I can speak for myself. I want to see what's being done. Not necessarily in front of me, so to speak, more metaphorically, but I want to have access to what's happening. And I want to be able to change a shadow gap if I see it happening.
On the fly,
as compared to getting a 300-page document and then having to mark that up.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I don't know. There's pros and cons to both, I suppose.
Exactly. And is that hurting me or not? I haven't come to that conclusion. Commercially, I'm sure it is better to outsource, but having to be able to see the output immediately for me and my mental state.
I can see the work is happening.
Yeah, exactly. And we tend to second people in to do that as well. So it's not necessarily our team, but we assimilate people into our production. And then once that project's over, they either go on to a new one or they're out the door.
Right.
That for me is a better model.
True. It does make QA/QC a lot more tighter, I would imagine.
You've got to have the procedures and protocols in place. You've got to have the structure in place. And that's what we have worked really hard to make sure we have, one, the time to do QA/QC, because we never get time to do that. What a luxury,
right? What a luxury. What a nice to have, QA/QC.
But the production team then knows that it goes through a series of QA/QCs before it gets to going out the door.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. I suppose the next question I want to ask is a bit of a right turn to the conversation, but it's more along the lines of the industry as a whole, which is, in your opinion, because you sort of have been around quite a bit. There's no other easy way to ask this, so I'll just come out and say it.
Go for it.
Which is...
I don't hold back.
Which is, as architects, what do you see that architects are doing wrong in the industry now?
Ooh.
It could be design, could be the way practices are run, whatever it may be. Anything that comes to your mind when you think, that's not right. They should do it different.
Definitely, there is a group, let's say, that I feel are compromising on design. If you look at some of our designs, we try and maintain a strong edge look and feel. We want our buildings, our architecture to represent who we are and what we do. But I feel that maybe it's to please the client, that a lot of architects are compromising just to get the buck, to get the dollar. My guys know that I'm very staunch when it comes to clients and wanting what they want. I think you have to push back. They've engaged you as the expert. They are, and this, what I'm saying could be quite controversial and I could get a bit of hate mail.
We'll deflect it for you.
But I do feel that a lot of architects here are just doing it for the buck. And it's difficult. I struggle with that. We should be pushing back. Definitely. We're the experts. We've spent X amount of years learning how to do it. We're not the client's drafts person.
Yeah, right. Right.
That's one area.
I did have a follow-up question, which is, number one, I suppose, is mediocrity breeds mediocrity. So I think as an architect, if your standard is mediocrity, that's kind of what it'll always be. But then for the architects like yourself, for example, who obviously are very talented and do have a very strong design stance when it comes to your projects, do you think it's the client brief, which has now become, for lack of a better word, too tight and too sophisticated, wherein it sort of almost chokes out creativity in the process under the guise of efficiency and sellability, et cetera. Under that, it seems that creativity has sort of just been shown the door out. Do you sort of agree with that?
Yeah, I think that I've seen a lot of RFPs come through, which I can tell have been put through AI. And I think that has given the client, whether it's the commercial team, this ability to create a brief that is fictional. Let's put it that way.
Utopian. It does not exist.
It is. We want gold this and gold that. And in reality, it's almost is restricting the creativity because it's paint by numbers.
Yep.
It's like, okay, we've got to have full height glass. We've got to have, this form and that and this material. And all we're doing is putting together the puzzle. We've got the pieces there. We're just putting it together for the client at the end of the day.
Yeah.
My favorite client that I had, and we do embassies.
Ooh.
So we've done 2 embassies and we're working on a 3rd one at the moment. The client for one of the embassies, he says, I'm not going to give you a brief. I want you to go to the country and I want you to explore the country and you come back and you tell us what did you discover? What is, I can't really say who it is, but what are we and how will you then represent that in the UAE?
Gotcha.
Or one of the other countries. So we went and we explored the country. We went into the mountains, we went to the desert, we went to the coastline, we went to the city. We gathered all that information and we came back and we wrote the brief.
Right.
And we said, this is what we think your country represents and this is what we want to focus on. Here's our narrative. And we presented to them and they said, absolutely, that's it. Away you go.
Nice.
And that was that narrative remained through concept, schematic, detailed, and final AFC all the way through. And that was, what a great client.
Yeah. I mean,
to have the trust that you would design the brief.
Yeah. I mean, for our listeners who, can't see me, the minute I heard what Jeremy said, my eyes widened up. I was like, wow. Now that for clients listening in, and for whatever reason you are, that's what you got to do, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I'm sure the trip helped, but no, I mean, just the trust, I suppose. That's kind of what shines through.
Yeah. And we delivered that embassy. They liked the process so much and they were heavily involved. Once we'd given them the brief, obviously a program came into it and, operations, et cetera, But at the end of that process, they came back and asked us to do a second one in a different country. 2 totally different countries. The briefs were 2 totally different as well.
Yeah.
Because you have to assimilate, even though that's one country in the UAE, we had to assimilate that same country into Kuwait.
Correct.
So totally different.
Different geography, different context.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I like to say. And a lot of clients have seen our work and they say, you're not a cookie cutter architect.
Yeah.
Everything is contextual, bespoke.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud to have people say that.
Nice. I mean, that is a massive compliment and I'm sure it's valid. The next sort of topic that I wanted to speak about was more about yourself, actually, which is since you've been again in the industry for this long, I'm curious to know what you think the future of this industry is going towards, because there are a lot of obvious answers down, with AI and with, clients becoming sort of much more informed and therefore, briefs changing, et cetera, et cetera. So I know it's a very vague and broad answer, so I'll specify it down. Let's talk about Dubai as a city. Where do you think architecturally, design-wise, we're heading? Are we going down sort of sci-fi utopia, or are we becoming a lot more bespoke and more sort of intentional? I
feel that obviously, there's buzzwords like sustainability and AI, and there's so many that are floating around at the moment. But I can honestly see that architecture, particularly where I'm from, Abu Dhabi, is a lot more considered now. I think we're steering away from flashy architecture and looking at architecture that is more considered, fits with the context of place, and is creating a more subtle identity. I remember studying, we were doing master planning or something like that, and we looked at the Las Vegas Strip. And the thing that stuck out for me was duck architecture.
Okay.
But looks like a duck, talks like a duck. And there was actually a duck building on the Las Vegas Strip. And honestly, we've seen a lot of that.
Yeah, there's one particular building that comes to mind, kind of, book inspired. I'd leave it at that. But yeah.
There's a falcon inspired. There's a frame inspired. But I think, you look at the architecture in Abu Dhabi and Sharjah as well. I've seen a lot. And it's definitely changing in a different direction. And I mean, I went to the National Museum. Beautiful. Beautiful. And it sits nicely in place. You don't notice it until you approach it.
It's one of the few projects where, I mean, of course, the building is spectacular and works and everything. I was one of the few people that did the walk up midsummer. Which for some reason I was the only one there and everyone was, looking at me like I was a crazy person. I probably was. But more importantly, that particular project, the landscaping, which I suppose in a project like that, you are kind of focused on the building, but I think there was so much attention given to the landscape where I borderline felt it was better than the building. Controversial opinion, but it was, because if you kind of look at the way it was detailed, how it's put together, the pathways, the different sort of gardens that are there in place and so on. I know for a lot of you listening, you have no context, but if you visit, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a very well done, contextually appropriate, correct flora, fauna, everything. It's the way, if I imagine what a sort of desert garden would be, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
I think also that, and this is something that Edge tends to do as well, is that we're very narrative driven. And if you walk from the National Museum down the garden, down to the shore. It's not actually the building, it's the entire strip.
Exactly.
You can follow the narrative all the way through and you understand what's happening from shoreline to the actual structure.
Yeah, 100%.
And I feel a lot more people are now wanting a narrative behind their design. It's not just a building, it's a why. There's a why behind everything. Why have you done this? Why have you done that? What's the connection?
Right.
And that's what I enjoy.
No, I mean, I think it's the right direction for us to be going down. So very happy to hear that.
Hopefully I'm correct.
No, I would agree because I feel like architecture in Sharjah, for example, has been slept upon for a long time. But over the last maybe decade or so, a lot of the newer stuff on the outskirts, Maleha, the, Rock Geology Museum, there's so many of these little nuggets all over, which are brilliant buildings, very well put together, high level of craftsmanship, and they're not necessarily standing out. They're not, sort of shouting for attention. They're kind of just doing its own thing, but they're beautiful buildings.
Yes.
So yeah, I feel like I would agree we are going down that direction.
If I think about where the architect's going down, I think even us as architects, our role is evolving. We're not just architects who can come up with a concept design now. The expectation is that we are advisors. We're solution providers. We're strategists.
Borderline therapists.
Exactly. Let's sit down and let's look at this material and just stroke the material and it calms you down. But it's right. Like, clients don't want someone to just give them a design anymore. They want them to understand commercially, how is this going to impact me? What's the ROI on this? There's a lot more that we're having to do.
Yeah. Would you say that, I suppose maybe what the problem has been all this time is that, much like other industries, we have always been seen as, I'm hiring an architect for a design service. It's a service-based business. Whereas other businesses obviously operate differently. If you have a product-based business or SaaS or whatever it is, do you think that's changing for us? As in, we're no longer offering a service per se, but it's more a journey?
I think there's definitely clients out there that want us to take them on a journey from start to finish, and they want us to walk with them. It's not, give me a design, make sure it's built, and I'll turn up at the end of the day and, open the door. They want to be coming along. They want to be heavily involved.
Okay.
And we're working with clients at the moment. That journey is actually exciting. We're encouraging them to give us some more input. Being involved every week, I'm having to go and walk with the client. Did I put time in my fee proposal for that? No, but the client wants that. And if I'm going to get repeat work, I'm going to treat them like they are the best client.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to ask now, sort of as we're sort of reaching the other end of the episode. This is typically where I like to look forward. And I suppose the question to you and to Edge would be, what's next on the horizon for Edge Architects as a firm, as a studio? What are you guys working towards? What kind of projects do you want to be involved? What would you be targeting? And then you as an individual, what's next for you?
Wow. Obviously there's the standard, I've got a 5-year business plan, 10-year business plan sort of things, but it's evolving. I'm reading a great book at the moment called Good to Great. And it talks about how we can take companies from just being good to great. At the end of the day, I want to make money. I want to have founder freedom. Let's put it that way.
And I want to emphasize, that is not a bad thing.
No.
Because whenever I mention that, I get a lot of raised eyebrows, like, oh, really? For the money? Are you selling out Alan George? I'm like, no, I just want to go for 3 holidays a year. I mean, that's not a big ask. I'm not looking to like drive Rolls and, fly first class everywhere, but come on.
It's been a taboo. It's been a taboo for many years that you don't talk about making money. You don't advertise your architectural company. And I think that's just a load of rubbish. So I'm out marketing all the time. I want Edge to be visible. I want to attract the right clients and them to see me and go, hey, look, I want to work with that guy.
100%.
But I want to make money. That's what we're here for in Dubai.
Yeah.
I want to be able to take a day off and go to lunch with my wife for the whole day.
100%. 100%.
So we're in a rebuild at the moment. So changing or evolving the name from design to Edge is part of that. We've got a new website. The book that I was reading, as I said, Good to Great, it talks about getting the right people on the bus and in the right seat.
Okay.
So at the moment, we're not restructuring, but we're making sure that every new hire now is a strategic hire.
Right.
Putting them in the right place that helps move Edge forward, whether that's architects, design managers, senior leadership.
Right.
So senior leadership is where we're starting to give me the time to then work on the business, not in the business.
Correct.
Another great book, E-Myth. For architects.
E-Myth for architects.
E-Myth for architects.
All right.
Yeah. So that's what we're doing at the moment. We're bringing in leadership. We are restructuring sort of the hierarchy. Let's put it that way, to give the guys, I guess, line managers instead of everything bottlenecking up to me.
Right.
Structurally, that's what we're doing with Edge over the next year. In terms of projects and stuff like that, we are, I guess, we're quite broad in what we do. We've done hotels, F&B, embassies, mixed use, towers, even pedestrian bridges.
Perfect.
So with that, we're trying to just strengthen our position a lot more in hospitality. That's an area that I enjoy the most.
Okay.
I like working with operators. I like working with the food and beverage. I think that's a great area. It's challenging and there's a lot of competition.
So would you say that's sort of more the sort of boutique stuff, which is sort of 20, 50 keys and below, or are you looking at sort of the larger resort developments? That's
the BHAG, let's say. The big, hairy, audacious goal is to go for the big resort.
Right.
I think we've done 3-star, 4-star, 100, 200 keys type of thing. We're comfortable with that, but let's go for bigger. We're working with quite a few hospitality groups at the moment, doing a lot of refurbishment work or extensions with them. That's great. Love that. In and out. Nice stuff. And it gives us a bit of a reputation as well. We understand how operators work, we understand the short timelines, and we understand how to work in a live operation.
Operating hotel.
Exactly. So that's definitely a focus for this year as well. So structure, hospitality. Personally,
what's on the horizon, Jeremy?
To be honest, it is some founder freedom. I want to be able to take 1 day a week every now and then. I think every owner wants to be able to write their own schedule at the end of the day.
I suppose that was probably one of the very reasons why they became an owner.
Exactly. Yeah. You look at when you're working and you go, I can do that better, and then I can have time off. That's great, but I'm still waiting for that time off.
The time off fills up with like other stuff that could have come in.
An owner, I mean, at the moment, I'm working 7 days a week,
Yeah, there is no switch off, I suppose.
No, even if you're not physically doing it, in your head, you're still thinking.
Yeah, the subconscious is always working. Yeah, I do have very strong opinions about that, which is, as much as, it is controversial, Jeff Bezos, CEO of Amazon, saw one of his talks where he sort of went away from work-life balance and spoke more about harmony. So in my mind, at least what works for me is that I sort of see work and personal life as one. So if I had to paint a picture, it's me working on a project in the studio with my toddler probably running around the background somewhere. I don't tend to divorce the both. And I feel like if you do that, there's a lot more you can get done on both sides. Otherwise, I constantly feel like I'm compromising on one or the other. But yeah, that sort of concept of harmony in both, and that if one is out of harmony, it affects the other.
Yeah.
It's not kind of like, what's the name of the show? It's not like a Severance type situation where then you have your innie and your outie and things like that. But yes, I digress too. The question that I wanted to ask, sort of circling a few conversations back, was there's a lot of our listeners who are probably in your position, wherein they are also looking to bring on talent, specifically leadership. So I suppose the question is, it's easy to sort of grade, I suppose, and see where a designer would fit in based on their quality of design, for example. But when it comes to leadership, how do you find the right fit? And can you actually interview for that right fit?
Yeah. I'm currently working with an advisor. I guess there's a 7-step process. So we're currently looking at a position in Edge for leadership. And the first conversation I had with this advisor was, what do you not want to do? Because at the moment I'm doing everything, let's say.
Yeah.
What do you like doing? Put them in 2 boxes. What do you like doing and want to continue doing? And what do you not want to do as a leader of Edge? And in that box, that then formulated, okay, we're looking for someone to take those roles.
Right.
Now, the 7-step process, I think we're currently hiring, we're in step 4. It's been maybe 2 weeks that we've had candidates sort of screened and then got down. We're putting their feet to the fire.
Yeah.
We're giving them scenarios.
As you should.
This is what's happening on a project. Before it escalates to the managing director, what do you do? Give me a plan. We're testing them and to find out what their leadership skills are, their soft skills, hard skills, whatever.
Yeah.
There, I think it has to take a while. It's not a quick hire. It could take us a month before we get to one, and then it might not be the right one, and then we got to start again. So I think it's being patient is the key here. I'm pulling my hair out. Like, I want someone now, but I have to follow the process,
right?
Because that strategic hire is going to help me in the end, not hinder me.
True. It is something I've heard a lot of firms sort of, well, not struggle with, I would say, but it is definitely baked into a very laborious task because it requires obviously time from pretty much the entire management, if not the whole office at some point. And it is time consuming, and it is not a sure shot, because you could go down the path with, say 2 candidates, whittle down to 1. And then, by the time you're 4 weeks into this process, suddenly there's another offer letter that's come up and, you got to restart all over.
Yeah.
So I can see how it's difficult. I want to ask though, do you think, again, when it comes to leadership in a design studio, do leadership positions need to be designers? Can they be someone outside of the field? Is there a benefit in that?
That's a good question. I can only speak on what we're currently looking for as a leadership role. It does need to have a design background because that person needs to be able to support the architects. If we move up into a C-suite, not necessarily. I think it's capable, someone is capable of bringing new skills or a different perspective that they have from a different industry possibly that could complement an architectural firm. I haven't really thought about it, but too much, but we're not in that position.
Yeah.
I think most of the time someone would prefer you to have a design background so that you could jump in.
Yeah.
And I think that's what architects do, is that we wear multiple hats. When we get up into management, we wear multiple hats.
Yeah.
I can still jump in on Revit and I can still jump in on AutoCAD if the guys need me.
Right.
I think, and that's the kind of leadership that I try and promote, even with the new person coming in, is this, no, you're not standing over someone. If they need you, you need to jump in too. There's no jobs that's too small for me. So the same should apply to you.
Yeah, I agree. I only asked that question because I was recently, not necessarily told, but, sort of it was brought to my attention that a lot of large firms typically start off with 3 partners. And that seems to be not by chance, but by design. So I asked, why so? And then I was told that's typically because when you start off a firm, you typically have one role that's almost like a managing partner, you could say, that kind of does the business of architecture. You have another role that does the design direction, sort of the design partner. And then you have one role that's kind of either technical or BD, someone who brings in the work or then completes the work. Yeah. And that sort of 3-prong approach is typically why you have firms with 3 partners that start off. And you can see many examples of these all over. And I found that to be interesting. And I'm like, okay, so then as an architect, how do you progress towards becoming eventually one of those 3 roles? And then that person said, doesn't have to be an architect. You could have a managing partner from, a soft drink company, because at the end of the day, what they're looking at is the business, not so much the design. That should be whoever is running the design. Now, if that person has to be the same person, that's a different thing. But that sort of opened my eyes to, I'm like, yeah, you don't, maybe for some roles, you don't need an architect, dare I say.
Blasphemy. It's not an unusual concept. I remember working for a firm, the board, and they were heavily involved in the practice as well. They were, I think 3 of them were accountants. Now that's not a good combination.
That's going to be like, we said exactly 12 and a half hours for this task.
Exactly.
It's now 13 hours.
Yeah.
Win and loss.
Yeah. How many renders did you do? Did you charge for that? No.
Yeah.
But that's an interesting concept. I can see how that could add to a larger company. Definitely. For our size, I don't know if that would be appropriate.
Right. True. I think every studio sort of has their own secret sauce and operation. And rightly so, it should be boutique to how that firm works, because you then can do the kind of work that you do.
Yes.
So completely understand. As part of a closing tradition, as you probably know, we have something called the aForm tradition, which is basically a question that's been asked by one of our previous guests to the next guest, not knowing who they are. You will not know who asked the question. And I think we have one for you today.
Oh, goodness.
I am told, because we have had a pretty, I would say, a streak of funny ones, but I'm told this one is not as funny.
Oh, I get the serious one, do I?
Ooh, okay. It's kind of fun.
Okay.
So the question is, as an architect, you are required to be the ringmaster of a troupe of sub-consultants. And as such, which sub-consultant is the lion, which is the mule, and which is the clown? So I'll repeat it again. As an architect, you are required to be the ringmaster of a troupe of sub-consultants. So amongst these sub-consultants in your troupe, who is the lion, who is the mule, who is the clown?
Goodness, I like that question.
I can't wait for the answer. I feel like this is going to need like some, like column pros, cons.
Exactly. I'm working through it in my head, like the sub-consultants that I currently work with. Who would be the clown?
I mean, I can think of a few PMs, but that's just me.
Right. Let's get serious. So a lion?
A lion, a mule, and a clown.
A mule. Mule's got to be a good one, because that's someone stubborn, isn't it? It's someone who
I suppose stubborn, or someone who does
a bit of an ass.
But concurrently could also do a lot of work in the form of they carry a lot of load, and could be that also. A lion probably has more the I'm top dog kind of attitude.
Yeah, we all know those.
Yeah.
I think project managers are quite up there with they think they're the top dog.
So PMs are the lion.
PMs are the lion. Let's put it that way.
That Jeremy has to whip into place and say, "Dance, stand on one leg."
That's it. And they've got a big bark, a big roar, I should say.
True. All
so
right,
I'd put the PM as my lion. Who does the most work apart from us?
Of course, it's the architects, right?
Yeah.
I feel like it should be someone underrated. Someone like, I don't know, like authority liaison or something like that.
Either the authority liaison, or, to be honest, I think our landscape architects actually do a lot more work than what's required.
True. They don't often get the credit for it.
And they don't get the credit because you're just walking on it. No one's looking down.
Yeah. You're kind of like, doing your own thing.
So we're not saying landscape architects are stubborn or an ass. We're just saying that they carry a lot of load.
Yeah. True.
There we go. And a clown, it's got to be someone creative. It has to be.
Dare I say signage?
I was actually going to say that myself. Signage and wayfinding. There we go.
Yeah. Because I've been in a lot of signage and wayfinding where they are all about, this is what is going to make it, man.
Yeah.
This little, laser cut signage is going to be the thing. And I'm like, I appreciate the enthusiasm. Yeah. I do. I mean, this is not to throw shade on them. Of course, we love you guys. You know that. But yeah, some of them are, overly enthusiastic.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like, if it's not RAL 7521, the project's going to be bad. I've heard a lot of those, but yeah. All right, that's a very good answer. It's a very good answer.
I hope I don't get into trouble with this. I've got signage guys coming at me, and I've got PMs ringing me up.
Like, Jeremy, we thought you liked us, man. What's happening? No, I think that's a very honest answer, and therefore, I think everyone should deal with it.
Yes, we'll leave it at that.
All right, Jeremy, I think we can speak forever. This has been a lot of fun. We will definitely have you on again.
Thank you.
I promise it will not take as long as it did this time.
No, it's been fantastic, honestly. I really enjoy this. It's been great.
Awesome. We'll have the new flashy website from Edge linked down in the show notes for all of you to check out, and links to projects, to Jeremy himself, etc. if you want to get in touch. And on behalf of the show, I'd like to thank you for coming on the show, for giving us your most important resource, which is your time, and being transparent and sharing your insights.
Thank you.
Hopefully it helps somebody listening, and maybe years later, like I just did, you might have someone come up to you and be like, hey, Jeremy, I heard your episode changed my life.
Hopefully.
All right.
Great.
Awesome. And for the rest of you guys, we will catch you guys next week. Fellow aFormer, thank you so much for your time. If this episode added any value to you, please share it with anyone who may benefit. If you want to carry on the discussion, please get in touch with us over socials. We are at aForm Show on the gram and hello@aform.studio on email. That is at aForm Show on the gram and hello@aform.studio on email. Until next time, stay inspired.